Hi, I'm Mr. eTutor, your mystery tutor here at mysterytutor.com, and welcome to video module 5-10. In this module, we'll discuss the best way to approach the 10 to 20% of questions that have difficult words that are positioned in places that keep you from answering the question correctly. Remember, as we've seen before, it's very possible and very common for the College Board to create sentence completion questions that involve words you don't know, but to place the words you don't know in portions of the answer choices or of the sentence itself so that it doesn't matter that you don't know the words. So the strategies we'll discuss here are for situations where the placement of the words makes them matter. Now, whenever you come across some questions with words you don't know, the first thing you want to do is skip that question. It's not worth investing time on one question when there are other questions waiting to be answered. Remember, every question on the section counts the same. So, when you first come to a sentence completion question or any other question that can't be answered right away, don't spend time on it, skip it, move on. When you come back, that's when you want to look at the words you're not familiar with and try to figure out if you can work out how they might relate back to the sentence. Now this is crucial. You're not trying to work out what the word actually means. You're trying to work out how the word relates back to the sentence. Don't forget the difference. The difference is very important. So how do we do that? How do we take apart words that we're not familiar with? Well, in order to understand the best way to do this, you have to know a few things about the way words are constructed in English. In English, words can contain three basic parts. We have the suffix, the root, and potentially a prefix. Every word on the SAT potentially contains a suffix, a root, and a prefix. And the key to understanding unknown words is going to be breaking down these parts and considering them one by one. Now, this is very important. Even though a lot of people say you should try to learn suffixes and roots in order to do well on the sentence completion part, most people give you the wrong advice about the best way to apply that information once you do know it. For example, when you're trying to take apart a word you don't know, you do not want to start from the prefix. The prefix can be highly misleading. In fact, on the board is a word that appears to have a prefix, un. But if we know what the word understandable means, we know that un is actually not a prefix. Even though un can be a prefix in other words, in the word understandable, it's not. There is no word like derstandable that understandable would be the opposite of. Now it's obvious with words that we know, but when you're looking at a word that you don't know, it won't be obvious. So, don't start with the prefix. Instead, start at the right-hand side of the word. Look for suffixes first. The reason we start with suffixes is that suffixes are pretty much unchangeable in English. If you recognize something as a suffix and it's at the end of the word, you're probably looking at a suffix. So, with the word understandable, we would first want to chop off this part over here and think, what do I know about this suffix? In this particular case, we know understandable ends with the suffix able, and in English, that particular suffix means something can be done to something else. Among other things, the suffix tells us that this word is an adjective, which may very well be helpful. And if this part really is the suffix able, then we know that this part has to be a verb. So, the word understandable appears to be an adjective derived from a verb. Now, that may not seem to tell you very much, but if you know the patterns that apply to real sentence completion questions actually written by the College Board, knowing that you're looking at an answer choice that really is a verb made into an adjective can actually be very helpful in a lot of situations. So this is basically how you want to take apart words that you don't know. It's going to require some practice, and of course, one example is not enough to show you exactly how it works. If you'd like to see some more examples, make sure you put your name right there in our email form, and we'll send you some. Okay, so once you've broken the word down into its suffix and its root and any possible prefixes, that's when you want to start considering the pieces and putting them together. You want to look at the root that you've identified, especially at the consonants in that root, and sort of relax your mind a little bit. Switch into a sort of passive mode, look at the root, and just try to see if any other similar words come into your head. If they do, that's fantastic. Think about those words and what they might mean. If they don't, no problem. Go on to the next word and give that one a shot. Now, when you take these words apart, you're looking for one of two things. Hopefully, you'll find a word with a root whose consonants seem similar to some word that you actually do know that might be a good fit for the sentence. If you find that, you've probably found the correct answer. As silly as it sounds, it's actually that simple. The College Board deliberately picks words that allow you to do this. Alternatively, you might find 3 or 4 answer choices that definitely don't seem to fit into the sentence. That isn't necessarily a bad thing either. As you get better and better at looking at these types of words, you'll be able to tell if you have 4 words that don't fit, that the 5th word, which you can't figure anything out about, must be the correct answer. With practice, this becomes easier and easier, I promise. Now, it does take a little bit of practice, but the amount of practice that it takes to be able to decipher words you've never seen before is much, much less time than the amount of practice it takes to memorize 5,000 vocabulary words. And the good thing is, once you get good at this skill, you can use it anytime you don't know a word on the SAT. But if you spend several hours memorizing 5,000 words of vocabulary, and you come across a question without those words, you're right back at square one. Remember, it's not about the vocabulary you know. It's about what you can figure out from the words that you're looking at. You want to rely on your passive vocabulary here, not on words that you've actively memorized. This is a skill, and you can learn it, and if you practice it even a few times, you will learn it. So, thanks for watching. Remember, it's not as hard as it might sound. If you sign up for our email box, we'll send you some examples that'll get you started. And remember, it's easier than you think.